Hey guys, my name's Kayla. I live in the South Island of New Zealand and I am passionate about cruelty-free makeup and skincare. So I wanted to make a video about the makeup that I use that you can go down and buy in New Zealand that's quite easy to source because we don't get a lot of American brands or brands that are sold in America that we see a lot of, I don't know, famous people or other makeup people on YouTube using, and it can be hard to find. So I wanted to keep it sort of stuff you can easily find in New Zealand, and I was just going to do a quick everyday, sort of what I do every day makeup routine so you guys can see what I use and how I use them, and maybe talk a wee bit about the products. And while I do that, I might talk about a bit about cruelty free. So I don't have a cheap or drugstore primer on me that I want to use today. So I'm currently using the Henriksen Banana Bright Face Primer, which you can get at Sephora, I believe. And so I'm just going to use that all over my face, which is clean and cleansed from this morning. So I decided to go cruelty free about 4 years ago, and I researched into what that meant, and cruelty free is not just not using your finished products on animals, but it's also all the ingredients. So a company might say no finished products used tested on animals, but it might mean that some of the ingredients they source are. Another thing about cruelty free is the Chinese government require animal testing by law for any products sold in China, in mainland China. So that means that any product sold that is to be sold in China has to have animal testing by law. So a lot of companies that are cruelty free have chosen not to sell in China for that reason, and I think that's really cool from those companies to do that. Okay, so all I've done is just put a wee bit of concealer. I'm using the e.l.f. 16 Hour Camo Concealer. I found this at Kmart, and just unfortunately Kmart you can't swatch the products, they don't have testers out, but I just picked one that looked pretty good, and I've just put that under my eye, under my eyes, around my chin area, and just on a couple of spots I have. I'm doing the concealer first because I'm going to use a powder foundation. So I want to put all my creams on first and then my powders. So I'm using the Thin Lizzy Middle Foundation. I'm actually using a mixture of two shades because I'm not as pale as this one, but I'm not as dark as this one. So this is Duchess and this is Minx. So I'm just using a mixture of those, just with the brush that it comes with. And I'm just gonna put that, start buffing that in all over my face. So this makeup look is something I'd wear out just every day. It's really simple. I'm gonna add in a couple of extra steps. Sometimes all I'll do if I'm going out is just chuck some concealer on and some mascara and out I go. But I'm gonna chuck in a couple of extra steps just to show you some of the products that I use, because there are some really cool cruelty-free brands that you can find in New Zealand as well. And I think the idea of going cruelty free sounds quite scary, just because it might be really hard. People might think it's really hard, or that they have to throw out all their makeup, which definitely is not the case. So when I decided to go cruelty free, I didn't go through and throw out all my products that weren't cruelty free. What I did was, whenever I needed to buy something new, I just bought something cruelty free. So slowly over time my collection has become more and more cruelty free. So I definitely still have a couple of things that I bought before I went cruelty free that are still in my collection, just because they're things that don't get used up really fast, but the majority is cruelty free. So I'm just spending a bit of time buffing this in because that makes it look a lot more flawless. So I'm going to put on a little bit of bronzer just because I can. So I'm actually going to use another Thin Lizzy powder. This is the 6-in-1, and this is what the lady who was running the Thin Lizzy stand at the day suggested to me when I was first getting into bronzer. So it's one of the darker shades, E103, I think that's the shade name, and it's just like a sheeny dark brown. Just going to use a wee bit of that just to bronze up the skin. This is something, if I was in a hurry, I'd skip this step, but because I'm not going anywhere, we're just going to pop it on. That might be really hard to see, but there's just a wee bit there. Just gonna warm up that skin just a wee bit. So, sorry, I should swatch it for you. Okay, so it's just like a warm, sheeny brown. Really easy to buff into the skin. Now this step you can skip as well. I don't have a drugstore product like this yet, but I have heard that Essence do a pure nude baked powder. I will try and link it below when I find it, and I'm very keen to try it. So this is one of the ambient lighting powders from Hourglass in the shade Luminous Light. Looks like that. And I'm just going to dust this lightly over the tops of my cheeks. I use this as a setting powder, and these powders just give you just a very slight glow. They're really hard to explain. I'll try and do a swatch. So they don't swatch like much, but they just give you a glow from within. And they look really natural, and they're really finely milled, so they don't look powdery at all. Next I'm going to go for blush. This is a Milani blush. Milani do amazing blushes. This is their baked powder blush in Luminoso. It's this beautiful peachy pink with a wee bit of a sheen to it. So I'm just going to pop a wee bit of that on. I'm going to do a tiny bit of highlighter. This is a baked highlighter by Essence. Baked metallic highlighter number 2. and it's quite glowy and it's very powdery. So I'm just going to use a really lightly packed fan brush, and I'm just going to dust that on the top of my cheeks ever so slightly. A little bit on the nose. A wee bit under the eyebrows. And the cupid's bow. So I haven't gone overboard. Just a really light coat. Okay, I'll do my brows off camera because I'm not very good at them. I usually just use a brow pencil. If my eyebrows are recently waxed and tinted, I don't usually bother because they usually look quite well defined, but they're a wee bit patchy at the moment and not quite very well defined. So I'm going to use a Colourpop Brow Boss, and this is the shade Light Brown. It might be a little warm for me at the moment, but it's the only one I have that is sort of drugstore. So it's a nice, easy to use waxy pencil. And I've just realised I didn't swatch the blush. It's the blush there, it's beautiful. Or the highlighter for you, so let me do that. Yeah, so that's looking quite bright. Alright, I will be back. Okay, so I've done my brows. I've literally just filled them in slightly with a brow pencil, and that's all I'm going to do. I could set them if I wanted with a wee bit of brow gel, but I'm not going to bother. So what I'm going to do now, one thing I do like to do is just put a little something on my eyes. So I'm just going to use the brush that I used for my concealer, and whatever product's left on there. I should have done this when I did my concealer, but I forgot. Just do a wee bit of that and a little bit of that same setting powder just on it so that my eyeshadow doesn't look patchy. All I'm going to do for this is just use that bronzer, that same bronzer that I used, with an eyeshadow brush. Get a bit of product on there, and all I'm going to do is work that into the crease. Another thing I do like to do if I'm not going to do the bronzer on the eyes is use one of the Colourpop Super Shock shadows. They're like a cream to powder finish, they're really nice, and I used a shade called Wattles, which is like a pinky brown, and just pop that all over the lid and in the crease slightly. So now that that's done, I'm just going to curl my eyelashes. I'm blessed to have very long, already slightly curled eyelashes. However, I've just found that this, and I never used to curl them, but I just found that this helps to open up the eye a bit more, so I do that now most days. Just a wee bit of curl, and then I'm going to set my face because I don't want my mascara to bleed. So usually I'll just use a hydrating setting mist, but I didn't have any of those from the drugstore, so I'm going to use this Milani Make It Last setting spray. This stuff does make your makeup last, so if you wanted a setting spray for a night out, I use this, but I do find it quite drying, so I don't use this on a daily basis. I'll use the Morphe Continuous Setting Mist, or a Tarte one that I have. I'm just going to set this. And I think that's really important, especially if you're using powders, because it just melts everything in together and makes it look a little bit less powdery. So setting the face is really important. And then all I'm going to do is put on a bit of mascara, and that just completes the look. That's it, that's all I do. That's all I do. This sounds like a lot though. But honestly, some days I will just chuck on mascara and I'm out the door. That's the look. I'm thinking of doing a couple more videos just about cruelty-free makeup, the brands that I like to use. This has been more of a drugstore kind of affordable based video, just on some everyday stuff, and I'm thinking of doing another video with some high-end stuff, but I am really passionate about cruelty-free makeup. I'm no expert, I'm no makeup artist, this is just what I do, and if you want to hear more, then check out my other videos that I'm potentially going to film. And please be kind, please be nice. This is my first video, so yeah, this is my welcome to YouTube, so we'll see how I go, and I hope you enjoyed, I hope you learnt something, and yeah, this is the very basic makeup look. Thanks, bye.